we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll ask for a moment of silence. It's a good time to silence your phones as well. Thank you. Next, we'll ask for board member statements. Is there any board member statements?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I want to start by wishing a happy Earth Month. Looking forward to seeing all the amazing events and activities that go on this month. And I also had the opportunity to attend a career day over at Country Place, and I had the opportunity to present just the amazing work that our governing board does to second graders, and we ended up doing a mock trial, and it was actually amazing. I asked them, what do you take a look at to what do you think the people up here in this picture do? And a lot of them actually guessed, most of them actually guessed correctly, related to their teachers' pay, whether they wear uniforms or not. So yeah, it was really exciting to do that. So shout out to the Country Place staff for that.
Thank you. Anything else? I survived the eclipse, so if anyone that was my week. So we'll move on to item 6, Dr. Freeman.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Buenas tardes a todos, and good evening to everybody. As the end of the school year approaches, we want to thank especially our supportive parents, and their involvement and encouragement has been invaluable to the success of our programs, our teachers. Our partnership in education is crucial, and we're grateful for the trust you place in us to educate and care for your children. To our students and staff, we want to make this final quarter a testament to what you can achieve when we come together for a common purpose. Annual state testing is now underway. We want our students to shine, show what they know, and we are a team, like a family and a community. We are indeed better together. So best efforts to everyone to show their progress. I'd like to congratulate Board Member Barnett on her appointment as the Arizona School Boards Association Black Alliance Chair. The Arizona School Boards Association Black Alliance is dedicated to promoting equity in education, and as chair, she'll serve on the ASBA Board of Directors and in various other committees. And her term is effective through December of next year. We honored the achievements of assistant principals last week. These administrators manage a wide range of duties, including support for teachers and students, as well as administrative work, all of which are vital to the school's efficient administration. We especially want to thank Mr. Nelson for his outstanding poise in the face of recent emergency. He led the team's effort to perform CPR on a student who was experiencing medical difficulties, along with 2 other teachers and the school nurse. Emergency responders told us those actions most likely prevented the students from having an even worse outcome, and so we want to thank everyone who helped provide that student support. He was able to go home from the hospital and return to school just last week. The team at Tres Rios has shown they are worthy of the trust that families place in them every day, and they're here tonight. So we would like to, if I could, Madam President, bring them up for a photograph and a little token of appreciation. We don't have life-saving trophies or anything, so we're totally making this up. Let's do staff, but let's get, how about staff behind Ian, and Ian's mom, Ian's dad. So thanks for coming. Yeah, thank you very much. We're so proud that we bounced back and got back to school.
All right, everybody smile. Perfect. One more. Smile.
All right. Thank you all. Okay. So, student-led conferences with parents and families were held at the end of the third term, and students show what they understand, where they stand in relation to academic standards, and reaffirm their commitment to ongoing growth. When they submit materials outlining their progress and improvement strategies, demonstrate their learning, make presentations, distributed notebooks, data binders, class projects, everything you can think of to show what they're learning. And so we're proud of that work. We celebrated also our National Board Certified Teachers last month. And later in the month, we were also recognized at the 15th Annual Celebration of Accomplished Teaching, sponsored by the Arizona K-12 Center, runs out of NAU. In our district and our district governing board were recognized as well for their commitment to supporting teachers to get this valuable certification and reach that level of accomplishment in their teaching practice. Around our schools, Tres Rios students attended Luke Days last month for project-based learning. They experienced a wide range of activities, including trying on FBI gear. They hopped aboard helicopters and other air and land vehicles, including emergency trucks. Some careers in the FBI or as firefighters or military to serve our country probably will result from these inspiring connections, and so thank you to everybody who helped support that event. Our newest academy, Littleton Prep, hosted their very first annual World Fair. There are very many booths to visit, performances by K-4 students, performance by the Leonis Choir, and it was a wonderful night. Kids at Hope. Core principles: instill a sense of hope and optimism, foster supportive relationships, and help our students develop positive vision for their future. Our schools have activities scheduled throughout April and May to this end. Tres Rios will celebrate their second annual Kids at Hope Service Learning Day. Some of their treasure hunter guests will be from West Mac and Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Franklin High School, La Jolla High School, and other local community members to offer new opportunities to our Pumas. Fine art students look forward to ending the year with Career and Education Day, when families and local businesses visit school to talk to students about careers. At Quinton, students will be creating vision boards for their future careers and dressing up as their future selves. Collier, Estrella Vista, Littleton all tied spring activities such as egg hunts and spring fling games together with hobbies, interests, and family life to support building strong communities. Music, food trucks made the events a big hit for students of all ages, and they appreciate everyone's support. I would like to invite all of you, everyone listening, to attend the English Language Night on May 1st. We're working to ensure every child has the opportunity to grow up in an environment conducive to their development and well-being. We also celebrate our students' diverse cultural backgrounds, progress of our English language learners, and the potential of all of our students for a successful future. The community is invited to come and cheer our student athletes. The weather's just about perfect for the next few weeks, though I think it's going to start getting warmer. Hopefully it won't stay warm for too long, because we have girls volleyball, that's inside, but the baseball games are outside. They all play on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They all start at 4:30. And the championship game is scheduled for May 9th. Everybody's also invited to our Festival of the Arts Week. We're going to display student-created art with the opening reception at Avondale City Hall again on April 24th, and that reception starts at 5. We're also going to have band performances at the new Tolleson Performing Arts Center on Friday, April 26th. And I think it's a combined performance thing. That will start at 6 p.m. It's a great venue if you haven't been there yet, and students will get to experience that new facility, and we hope we'll be able to fill the auditorium. I think last time it was pretty full, like standing room only, so don't be late. And okay, in closing, as we approach the end of the school year, I want to express our appreciation for our professional development committees, chaired by Dr. Fife for certified and Ms. Musil for classified, and our committee members. The committee works diligently to ensure our ProDev opportunities are differentiated, relevant, and effective. Weekly ProDev sessions provide opportunities for skill enhancement, and we know that sustained and effective ProDev professional development supports staff retention and a positive impact. So, in closing, let me express our appreciation to Mrs. Sarah Contreras for her donation on masks for the nurse's office and CASA classroom at Quinton, and to Terry Parker with Donors Choose for their supplies for art class lessons. And that's all I have this beautiful spring evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman. And I just forgot to mention, I attended the annual World Fair at Lincoln, and it wouldn't be fair if I didn't shout out to everyone that made that happen. Every country, it seemed like, was there, and it was standing room only at one point. So it was very well received by the community. So thank everyone that participated and held that event. It was not easy. There was also food from every country, small sample, so that was really cool. So thank you for doing that. We're going to move on to proclamation. I'd ask Amy that if she would read the proclamation of National Student Leadership Week, please.
Whereas the future success of our nation depends on the leadership skills of our youth, and whereas Littleton ESD recognizes the importance of school staff, parents, and community members working together to develop sound leadership skills for our young people, and whereas we as a district are committed to providing opportunities for our students to expand their capacity to perform leadership roles that support development and refinement of key proficiencies to support success both now and in the future. And whereas student leaders are a positive influence on their peers and serve as role models both in and out of the classrooms. And whereas the National Student Leadership Week is an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the contributions of student leaders in our schools and communities, and whereas all members of the Littleton community are leaders in learning, caring, and growing, now therefore be it resolved that the governing board of Littleton Elementary School District, I proclaim that our schools will stand with the nation, recognizing April 22nd to April 26th, 2024 as National Student Leadership Week, and urge community members to celebrate the leader in every child.
Thank you, Amy. At this time, we'll turn it over to Ms. Garrison for a program showcase.
Thank you, Madam President, Governing Board. Tonight, we welcome Ms. Samantha Armstrong to the podium for Estrella Vista's Signature School Showcase. She's going to share some of the exciting things they have worked on this year, and she'll give us a sneak peek at the things they are planning for next year. As you have been seeing during these showcases, our schools believe that having strong partnerships supports increased success for our students. Ms. Armstrong will also be recognizing her dedicated volunteer, Luisa Valdez Flores, and her Kids at Hope Student of the Month, Azalea Cotton. Ms. Armstrong.
Take two. Good evening, President Reyes, members of the board, Dr. Freeman, members of the executive team, community, and guests. My name is Samantha Armstrong, principal of Estrella Vista STEM Academy for Engineering. I'm proud to present our annual showcase. Tonight, I will be sharing our work this year in strengthening our partnerships, building an understanding of engineering and design for all, and sharing our future iterations. We are currently partnered with Westmec, Phoenix Raceway, and we are beginning our work with Barrett Jackson with their new STEM initiative. as well as growing with other opportunities for what we're calling Engineering Focus 2.0. In our work with Phoenix Raceway and WestMech, we are working to build an understanding for not just our students, but our staff and community on what our focus is and how vast the implications for engineering are. Engineering is a word, like science, that is a broad meaning of many items, skills, tasks, and jobs that can fall under it. It is with this understanding that we are working on our new iteration, one that allows for our campus to explore the various skills, tasks, and career opportunities that engineering can hold for our students. We are working to broaden and deepen our staff skill set as well, and connecting to the concepts and links to career and technical education, or CTE, and other paths for our students to explore. To begin this work, WestMech is supporting our campus staff with professional learning on what career and technical education are, as well as what programming looks and sounds like. This learning will assist us in planning how we can continue to work to embed these learning experiences for our students. WestMech has also supported for trips for our 7th and 8th grade students to visit their Verado campus, which is focused more on engineering as their overall thing, and supported with funding for all of our grade levels to be able to participate in an off-campus field trip focusing on design and engineering for students to connect to as well. Phoenix Raceway provided an opportunity where we were able to send select 6th through 8th grade students to the Raceway so they could participate in their very first STEM event at Phoenix Raceway. Phoenix Raceway is also working to partner with materials, funds, and items such as kits and buildables that we will be using for our STEM labs, as they want to partner with growing our students with hands-on engineering opportunities as well, and maybe build a fan or two on the way, right? This year has also allowed us to begin working on a signature engineering project for each grade level that teacher teams will be working on to develop during the summer months for implementation in next year's engineering fair. We are building out 2 engineering labs, one in our K-4 wing and one in our 5-8 wing, to allow for opportunities to build, tinker, and engage in problem and process solving skills required to build skill in science fields. These hands-on learning experiences will allow for our students to engage in learning and problem solving within the design process for engineering to build upon each year. We are also creating opportunities for our staff to grow with their learning and supporting CTE with WestMech and working with Phoenix Raceway for staff learning opportunities next year on and off site. We are excited for all of the incredible opportunities and work that has been done at Estrella Vista in the past, during this year, and even more so for our next iteration as we work to continue improvement of our engineering focus to support our students, community, and provide opportunities for future careers. We are excited to share our video that highlights the great work we are doing currently with our focus, as well as continuing working on the next iteration to embed our engineering focus.
Okay, so we're a STEM school, and so we're trying to be more intentional about implementing STEM, especially like into our classes.
We learned a lot. I learned a lot from WestMech, so that was a good experience. Where was this when I was a teenager in high school?
What we want to do when we're older, it connects to actually being able to practice that and talking about it. So it's exciting because you don't get that type of experience everywhere.
There's so many opportunities they have. All the disciplines I can see it's centered on engineering. So these kids actually, they see that they don't only have just one track to move, they have so many opportunities.
And I think it broadened their scope. It let them know about their future, and that they can even kind of get started on it before they even graduate from high school.
When they're like driving, they have to be like careful about like not bumping into each other, like hitting them off the sides, but accidents happen, they said.
You know, they have like a lot of stuff for STEM, and you know, one thing that we got to do was we were able to put copper tape and put a positive.
We had to expand the legs of negative and positive energy on the sides for the copper to go around it, and the magnet was hard to get out, like really hard. And we had to put it down, we had to fold it on the side like a corner, and then we have to fold it down, it will touch and it will go around the copper to the light to make it light.
Thank you for that opportunity. Are there any questions?
No question, just a comment. Thank you for the presentation and showing us the amazing work that you're doing at your school. I think it's, I can't remember if it was, I think somebody would know. Remember last year, I think one of our buses was on the raceway. Can't remember if that was, or if that was Tulsa Union. But I think it's great to see all the signature focuses at each of our school. I was at Country Place, and they have a courtroom there. And Estrella Vista, you're building your engineering labs. So thank you.
And also thank you in what you do and everyone that helps you do it. And while our partners may not be here, we certainly do not want to forget our partners, and please let them know we appreciate all that they do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the volunteer.
I'm thrilled to introduce our volunteer, Luisa
Greetings.
Valdez Flores, and here is a quick video to introduce all the wonderful things she does. My name is Samantha Armstrong. I am the principal of Estrella Vista STEM Academy, and I'm very honored to introduce to you our volunteer, Luisa Valdez Flores. She has been a proud parent previously at Estrella Vista and is now joining us again in support of her wonderful kindergarten student, Caleb. Ms. Valdez Flores supported the campus in providing an additional pop-up shade and weights to keep our students cool and shaded with our extreme summer heat this year. She continues to support our campus with our morning drop-off, ensuring students are able to cross correctly through the parking lot and crosswalk, as well as parents being able to move quickly and safely through our arrival process. Her support has no limits, and she is willing and able to do whatever is needed, from assisting with morning tardies and front office help to field trips and campus support as a whole. For this reason, we are proud to have Ms. Valdez Flores for our Estrella Vista STEM Academy's parent volunteer, for her commitments to our students and campus, and for being a wonderful example for all in our Hawk community. Thank you.
Next up, Kid at Hope. A few words about him. Her. Wait,
I have words first.
words first, Jim.
So I wanted to really take a moment to explain to you who Izzy is. Ever since she stepped foot on EV's campus last year, she's been a leader in her own way. She's been candid about how in the past she's a struggling student. Grades weren't great, low confidence, things of that nature. As soon as she became a Hawk, she excelled in her classes. She has a good head on her shoulders and makes sure that she surrounds herself with friends who share her values. Despite struggles, she holds herself to incredibly high standards, yet even when she's going through her own difficulties, she drops anything and everything for a friend. There's an example of this, and that would be the time she took another student who was struggling academically under her wing. She would make sure that he was able to follow the lesson, and if the teacher couldn't get to him quickly enough, she would help answer his questions and make sure he was successful. She reaches out to her ACEs for support and uses that time to talk through her struggles, her goals, and how she wants to move forward. She is positive, solution-minded, as well as responsible in and out of class. Izzy is always looking towards her future. She sets goals, she knows what she plans to do after high school, and she adjusts her plans when her interests change. She encourages others to do the same and is always friendly and welcoming. She's also participated in almost every sport on our campus since she became a Hawk. She maintains great sportsmanship. She consistently has a growth mindset, and she is supportive of her teammates in their growth. The last amazing thing about Izzy is that she is unapologetically herself, and through her confidence, she shows others that being themselves is the best way to be. For this reason, we are proud to have Miss Cotton represent Estrella Vista as she embodies the Kids at Hope philosophy, and her Hawk family is proud to have her. She recorded a quick video for us as well.
I'm Isaiah Cotton, and I am the Kids with the Hope of the Year. I am the Kids with the Hope because I always put my effort into soccer, softball, and my academic work. I wanted to express my thanks to Evie for this award. Evie teachers and staff have always been respectful to me, especially the coaches. They have always given me the truth, and I know that their advice will be with me forever. My aces are Daniela Garcia, Miss Miller, my mom, and my older brother, Manny. They are my aces because Daniela Garcia always gives me the harsh truth, and my mom is my personal cheerleader and always supports me. My brother Manny is always there for me, and I know if I need him, he'll be there. And finally, Miss Miller, she is one of my favorite people. Just being in her classroom brings me that comfort. Even though I am not in her classroom anymore, I still feel loved by her. She gives me the best advice, and I'm really thankful I was in her class. My aces always give me the motivation to try new things, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without them.
Dan, I think she has her camera too that Mom does. Whoa.
Thank you, Ms. Armstrong.
All right, is there any call to the public?
Oh, wait, 7B.
We have what?
Field trips.
Oh, field trips. All right, well, I'm all for a field trip.
That's a pretty tough act to follow, but Madam President, Governing Board, thanks for allowing me a few minutes to update you on the signature field trips. It's one of the many amazing opportunities that the Governing Board has been in support of for several years now. I've recently been reading about the benefits of travel for students, and I'm going to share a few highlights from what I found. According to a recent study by the Student and Youth Travel Association, there's proof that kids who travel benefit in a myriad of ways, including superior performance in school, which is what we're all after. Some of the key findings include 70% of educators polled believe travel helps students' personal development, and 56% believe that travel has a positive impact on students' education and careers. Interestingly, the study also found that students who travel have an increased desire to go to college. So it was just an interesting thing there. The Travel Effects Project recently conducted a survey of over 2,500 adults. The study revealed that those who traveled regularly as children had above average grades, higher educational attainment, and 12% higher than average incomes. So I thought those were interesting things to share. For our students, we know it creates lasting memories, and these trips are just really fun. So I'm going to recap for you on where we went this year. Jim? First, 6th graders went to Camp Way, 7th graders went to Camp Surf, and 8th graders went to Washington, D.C. Next up, let me start with Camp Way. Camp Way is located in Prescott. It's situated on 130 acres of wilderness land. They can have a whole bunch of campers there at one time. and the cabins are equipped with private showers, private toilets, sink and mirror, and there's all kinds of activities they do, and I thought it would be important for you to know that they're accredited with the American Camp Association. Next up, here's the stats. They went in September. The first trip had 74 students, 5 teacher chaperones, 10 parent chaperones. And then the bus went up, picked those up, brought the next group back, 83 students, 4 teacher chaperones, 11 parent chaperones. They got to do, next slide, all kinds of things. There's some examples of the day activities, and at night, their evening activities included a campfire, game night, and sports tournament. Next slide, all classes listed here adhere to the next generation science standards. Along with each lesson is an accompanying field journal and worksheet that reinforces the lessons and brings the learning back. So we had lots of education going on there. We also had, as you notice on this slide, some amazing pictures that were posted along the way and collected as they went. Couple quotes there, I won't read them all to you, but give you a second to look at them. We have 2 chaperones as well as 2 students. Highlights, invaluable experiences to students, truly remarkable to witness the students' awe and excitement, especially when many of them had never experienced camping or ventured beyond Phoenix. These field trips not only offered great opportunities for families to expose their children to new experiences, but also leave a lasting impact. Couple more there. Now we'll move to the 7th grade trip, Camp Surf Outdoor Education. 45 acres right on the Pacific Ocean. It's located in Imperial Beach. It can accommodate over 200 campers. And I will tell you, Mrs. Reyes, it has been upgraded since we went. Campers
I was going to comment private showers and private toilets? What?
The bunks had outlets and lights. We did not have that when we were there. So awesome beachfront property. Next slide. 49 students went with 1 parent chaperone. There were 5 teachers and 1 administrator, and they went in March over spring break. Their activities were awesome as well. Lots of day activities to choose from, and they had evening activities. We were there long enough to be able to do most of these things, and it's funny how kids were reporting in, and they all liked different things, so that was awesome to know. Of course, there was lots of education connections to make there. Their goal is to excite students about science and, be at the water learning things, marine science and island ecology. Help students understand their role in the Earth's ecosystem was there. And really a big part of it, even when we went way back then, was for students to be responsible, be careful around the plants, be careful around the animals, those type things. Chance of a lifetime for our 7th graders there. Next slide. Again, a bunch of quotes there. I thought it was fun that the food was commented on a lot, that it was really good. Amazing opportunity for the students, same thing. Camp Surf was fun. Look at those amazing pictures. A lot of fun learning about the ocean, and the food was good. A 10 out of a 10. I would love to go again, is what Hector said. So we really capture what students are feeling when they come back. I love being a part of Camp Surf this year. I thought it was well organized and a great combination of education and fun from one of our chaperones there. So that was the 7th grade trip. 8th grade, again, Washington, D.C. We left Williamsburg, Virginia in there because it was such a popular piece that got added a couple years back, and really just retracing the footprints of American history, right? I could go on and on about this, but I'm sure you're all aware of why D.C. was awesome. So next slide. 43 students went, 5 teacher chaperones, 1 administrator, and 6 parents participated in this one. Next slide. There's a long list of activities. One of the things we did learn and we took back to the sponsors this year was the activities were super fast. They would like to slow down and get more deep into, because this was a lot to do in the few days they were there. So we might be picking and choosing a little bit so that they could go deeper into it. I've heard that the last 2 years, that it was just boom, boom, boom. Keeps the kids tired, which is good, but they would like to go the chaperones said they'd like to go a little deeper into some of this, so much. They could spend a month there, right? Of course, curricular connections there as well. We do partner with World Strides. This is their business. They know what they're doing. So it was just amazing the things that they came up with for the kids to learn about while they were there. Next slide, a whole bunch of quotes that we had, and that one looks so long, that first one, but I just want to give you a couple sentences from Mr. Bryant, who went 2 years in a row. So he said, my second adventure in Washington, D.C. was just as mind-blowing as the first. From the awe-inspiring Washington monuments to our thrilling journey to Colonial Williamsburg, every moment was packed with excitement. He talked about the Pentagon. It goes on and on. At the end, the students on the trip were fantastic, soaking in every bit of D.C.'s rich history with wide-eyed wonder. And of course, the Lincoln Memorial, especially at night, was a sight to see. So I love what he captured there. Jonathan is a student, and ZV was another student. My time in Washington, D.C. was very enjoyable. I made lots of great friends and wonderful memories. All the things I did were enjoyable, and I don't regret going at all, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. So, I want to say thanks again to the governing board for seeing the value in providing travel experiences for our students. Thanks also to the chaperones who are willing to go. This is a big commitment, right? You leave your family, you go, and you hang out with the kids so that they can have this experience. We couldn't do it without them, so kudos to them. I also want to thank Ms. Rosa Martinez for all the hours she puts into organizing and making sure each group was prepared, had what they needed when they left to travel safely. Both she and I were on site for all 3 of these trips when the students returned. And it was awesome to see them, really exhausted, yet super excited. And it was pretty fun to watch the families reunite. You would have thought some of these kids were gone for months and months and months, right? I overheard one asking a friend if he could visit this summer. And standing at the door right here, a little sibling busted through the door because his big brother had been gone for these 4 days. And oh my goodness, couldn't wait to see. So it was awesome to watch the reuniting of them. So huge thanks to everyone. And any questions or comments?
No, I just thank you for sharing all of it. It's amazing, and I know people that went 40-some years ago and still talk about it. So I think it just talks about the adventure and what they remember. So thank you, and thank all the staff. It's a lot of work.
Just reiterating what President Reyes said. I mean, thank you to everybody that put all the hard work and effort into these trips. My daughter did the 6th grade trip, and she loved it. My 8th grader didn't go to Washington with the group, but we just came back from Washington as a family, and it was just amazing. So just the fact that our students have an opportunity to partake in these events, it's awesome. So thank you.
All right, I think now we'll ask if there a call to the public? No? All right. We'll move on to number 9, the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that anyone wishes to have pulled? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, I have,
Second that.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda will pass. Thank you.
Mr. French.
Thank you. Yeah, just my mouse isn't cooperating. All right, we're moving on to Mr. French.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, and Littleton community. This evening, we're going to be discussing compensation for the next school year. It's a little hard to do that when legislature's still in session and we don't have a budget, but we're going to take our best shot at giving you an idea of what we want to do and what we plan on doing next year for our staff. Like I said, budget hasn't come out, but we do know with fairly good confidence that the legislature will provide at least a 2% base level adjustment to our maintenance and operations budget. We also do know that the JLBC came out with a classroom site fund calculation. This increases by $34 over last year from $758 to $792. We also know that we discussed a couple weeks back that we had no insurance increase, and so we do plan on leveraging that and trying to give as much back to the employees through the fact that we don't have to pay more into our health insurance plan. And we also know that the insurance, the ASRS contribution rates are changing ever so slightly. Pretty much, I would call it an even. It's not going up, it's not going down. It's going from 12.29% to 12.27%. It's not really any adjustment one way or the other. Yes, but not going up. That is the important piece. So with all of that information, administration is proposing the following changes for the upcoming year. We are proposing a 2.5% base level increase to all returning staff. That would be ongoing money using the 2% that we're getting from legislature, and we feel comfortable giving the 2.5% because of the insurance piece that we did not have to contribute it into medical insurance this year. This is also our last stab at the ESSER funds as those expire in September. And we did manage to structure them in a way that we have one last bite at the apple, so to speak, for employee retention stipends. So we do plan on providing a $1,000 retention stipend to all returning staff paid for out of ESSER funds, like we have done in years past. Yeah, that would be a one-time payment as ESSER is not continuing past September. Some other one-time money that we would do plan on talking to you guys about to see if we can provide to staff is we do a performance incentive for admin staff, support staff, and related services. Every year it's a calculation that includes the GPA of the district and I think 0.25% of their salary. We'd like to double that. What we're doing is using position savings. So we had many positions that went unfilled this year and they were budgeted for. And so that's money that's sitting in the budget that was never able to be utilized out of position. So this is one-time money. So we'd like to do this as a one-time incentive to staff. We'd also like to do the same thing for our teaching staff. So we have a program in place for teaching staff that was the sub-coverage plan that the board had approved, where they were provided shares for having to take extra kids. We'd like to double the first semester payment of that and then provide just a jackpot bonus, I guess you would say, that we would put a dollar amount in and split it amongst all returning teachers. So when we put pen to paper on this and taking an average teacher salary of roughly $51,000, all said and done here, it's roughly a 6.5% increase to teachers. Not all of it's ongoing. Only 2.5% of that is ongoing, but we're trying to give as much as we can to our staff as a retention bonus and to keep them loyal to the district. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. It's a discussion item, so take any input that we have from the board and bring it back at the next meeting.
I think our idea basically was the people who stayed and stuck it out had to carry extra load for unfilled positions. So instead of carrying it over to pay them for the extra work they did.
Comments?
I agree that we need to, if we budgeted money for staff and then we, for whatever reason, didn't have the staff and other people had to take up duties and responsibilities, then I do want to see it given to them. I don't want to see it rolled over. So I do want to thank you for bringing this to us and having us vote on this. So it's just a comment, no questions.
All right, so with that, we'll move on to item 11.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman. This is an item that was brought before the board last month as discussion, and we're bringing it before the board as action this evening. It's broken up into two parts. The first part is regarding lunch prices and the lunch price increase proposal for the new school year. As we discussed at the last meeting, the district completed the paid lunch equity tool that's required by us each on an annual basis by USDA. The tool basically told us that the district needed to increase the lunch price by a dime. And so we had brought that to the board back in March, and we're asking for action item here.
Questions on that? All right, so I'll ask for a motion.
I move that the governing board accept the increase in lunch prices from $2.50 to $2.60 for the 2024-2025 school year.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will pass.
Madam President, the second piece of this item is the extracurricular fees that we had a lengthier discussion on at the last meeting, and I feel like we took some of the concerns of the board and changed our proposal a little bit and wanted to go through that with you this evening. On the chart that we have before you on the projector, we have our current fee structure, which is $15 per student per fee or per activity, with a $50 student annual max and a $100 family annual max. I think there was some concern about potentially doubling that from 15 to 30. We have provided some background that said pre-COVID, the per student per activity fee was 25. I think we would potentially talk to the board in the future about getting back to something at that level, but we realize that that's a big jump and not something that we want to do, take a bite of that apple all at once. And so the proposal this evening is to increase the fee structure from $15 per student per activity to $20 per student per activity. This still is, the parents will still be able to take advantage of the tax credit donations that we discussed at the last meeting. So this should still be a fee that they would be able to get back when they file their taxes, Arizona state taxes annually. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Yes.
Not a question, just kind of a comment. I thank you for taking our feedback and coming back to this with us. In the future, I would love to see something where we include all the other student activity fees into a per capita maximum. I realize we couldn't do that this year, but I think we have students out there who not only are they in athletics, but they're also in the other clubs and activities. And I feel like sometimes we're having those students pay more, and they're doing more. I understand that, but it's just growing, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just because my kids are getting old enough where they're joining all the clubs. That could be, but it is something that I think it's not just my family feeling, but other families.
Member Soshnick will bring that back in the future.
Other comments or questions?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Amy said. I think I would like to see the same exact thing brought back to us next year. And I do want to thank the understanding of the board on this issue. I know it's it'd probably be more feasible financially, but I think as we ease back into that pre-pandemic, I think it'll be just a little more easier on our community. So thank you.
So with that, this is an action item, so I'll need a motion.
I motion to approve the extracurricular sports fees for 2024-2025 school year.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will pass. Moving on to item 12.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, Littleton community. This evening, I'd like to start the discussion with the board about the possible DAA override election in November. This is currently the district has a DAA override. We've had one since 2012. It has helped us tremendously weather some of the doubts that we've had with funding through the legislature. Our current DAA override is $2.3 million. If you scroll down a little bit, Jim, I've added a graphic right here that shows you really the history of the DAA override in the Littleton district. Our first one was in 2012, just shy of $2 million. That tax rate at the time was when we went out for that was 81 cents to the taxpayer. That's what was in the pamphlet. In 2018, that went up $400,000 to $2.35 million, and that was 90 cents in the override tax rate. That tax rate does go down as assessed value increases. That tax rate does go down, and it has gone down pretty aggressively over the last couple of years. Madam President, what we are doing and what we took a look at is looking at what inflation has done since 2018 and what our student growth has done since 2018. Inflation rose by 22% from 2018 to current. That's roughly $500,000 in purchasing power that if we didn't do anything, we lose. We also looked at the number of students served since 2018 to current. That increased by over 17%. Again, about $400,000 to $500,000, that if we did nothing, that's $500,000 less that we can spend on the students. So we put together a couple of proposals to talk to the board about this evening. Just looking at inflation and student increases, we're looking about $1 million to be able to keep the same purchasing power that we had in 2018. So if you look at that third column there from 2024, it's showing an amount of $3.35 million. That's a $1 million change from the 2018 override. You'll notice a couple of things. The override tax rate would potentially be 74 cents, which is significantly less than what we've done in the 2012 election and the 2018 election. And it's only 80 or 8.5% of the revenue control limit. Now, by statute, we can only go up to 10% of the revenue control limit. The board can levy or put any amount they want in the override if the voters approve it, but we can only collect 10% of our revenue control limit. So the 3.3 million is actually less of a percent than it was in 2018. What we are, now Jim, if you would like, I have a couple of attachments. We did take a look at ballot language briefly. This is just the district attempting some of the information. The ballot language can be changed and modified, but the numbers are accurate. So if we scroll down to the very bottom, Jim, we can show you the 2018 pamphlet. One more, please. This is the 2018 pamphlet that was approved by voters. You'll see the breakout between non-administrative and administrative purposes. You'll see the associated tax rate with each column and the cost for homeowners with homes valued at $80,000. $80,000 is statutorily required. It's not a number that we came up with, but it's assessed value. It's not actual value. So if you take a look, Jim, I'm sorry, now you can go up to the top. What we've done is you can see at the top here, this is for the 3.35, we highlighted it in green, but we consolidated some of the purposes. So before instructional materials and informational technology was called out separately, we combined the two, so it provides the district a little bit more flexibility. And you'll notice that everything in this bond recommendation would be for non-administrative purposes. We feel like if this is something that the community would approve, that we could take care of the administrative purposes with the allocations that we receive from the state. The other thing that we did want to make the board aware of is this is a proposal to do business as usual. So it's the same type of things that we were buying. Buses are 22% more expensive. Computers are 22% more expensive. So it doesn't really leave the district any additional funds. If we go down, Jim, we did just throw out a proposal to say if we maxed out our statutory limit, which is 10% of our revenue control limit, roughly $4 million a year, we could do things potentially that the board may or may not have any interest in, such as potentially electrifying our white fleet or looking at solar installations into some of our schools. It adds roughly 14 cents to the tax rate, but it provides an extra $650,000 per year. Jim, if you'd open up the tax rate document that we have, the last thing I'd like to discuss with the board this evening is the 10-year rate history here at the district. If you take a look in 2016, you'll see that the tax rate was 5.92. We've managed that to where it currently sits in 2024 at 4.86. This tax, if the board approves the DA override and is approved by the community, wouldn't actually go into effect until 2026. But I don't have the information to project out that far. So what I am showing this evening is if the tax went to an effect next year, what that would do to the associated tax rate for Littleton Elementary School District. So essentially going to the $3.35 million proposal, it would increase our tax rate roughly a nickel. If we went all the way up to the $4 million proposal, we're going from 4.86 to 5.08. I know that's a lot of information, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. It is a discussion item, so we'll take whatever we bring back from this evening and bring it back to the meeting in May.
Questions, comments on it? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ryan, for the presentation. I'm looking at, so you said the maximum is 10%. So we're currently at right now 8.5%. If the board was to go all the way to 10%, and with inflation being 22%, would that max us out at future overrides? Or would that allow us, would we have more flexible room? Because our max is 10% by statute. Does that make sense?
Member Simpson, I believe I understand your question. What we are able to do is a DA override is for 7 years, and it's a specific dollar amount. We can't go to the voters and say we want 10% of our RCL. We could potentially say we wanted $4.5 million and we would grow into it over the next couple of years, but we could only collect 10% of our RCL those first couple of years. That would change the language in the voter pamphlet, so it'd be a higher perceived tax rate for the community, even though we wouldn't be collecting on it right away, if that makes sense. But I did get clarification from our bond attorneys is that we would actually, there's nothing precluding us from having 2 DAA overrides. So say if we had an 8.5% of our RCL and we wanted to capture the other 1.5, we could always go out for an election in a subsequent year. It's just a timing issue, and it's a little hard to do because then you'd be balancing 2 7-year cycles.
Could we do the 2 of them in the same year?
We could. We just have to pay for 2 questions.
But we wouldn't have to pay for 2 elections.
No, we would not. So we did get clarification. I don't know if you want to clarify. Dr. Freeman and I were discussing the potential of asking the community 2 questions on the same election, potentially allowing us to do the 3.35, but also another question that allows us to go up to the maximum of 4 million. That would be.
I'm sorry, then the second question could go, the model he did is what, 10.15 or something? You can only levy at 10%, but you're approved for that additional the dollar amount. And so when the tax rate, or when the assessed valuation goes up and the percent that's 10% fits into that number, then you can start to levy that. But then you can't keep growing it, it stops. So you could shoot for a bigger number. The question always is, in shooting for a bigger number, is it too big for the voters to approve? We're paying the tax. So we think the rationale for growth and inflation is a pretty solid one. Plus you saw the rates not going up. So that, we think that's a convincing argument. Then going up further, we think is a little trickier because Tolleson Union's going to be on the ballot, other things will be on the ballot, and how much stress on the community do we think, their pocketbooks and taxes can take? That's the, there's no right or wrong answer. That's a judgment call for the board.
Questions? Yes.
I personally am not a fan of going out for 2 questions in the same year. I'm also not a fan of going out for a question in subsequent years, like one year and the next year. I think we pay a lot to have the voting and the question. I also don't ever want to come off as being greedy to our community. They have been amazing in supporting us and continuing to support us, and I don't want to ruin that perception that we're trying to ask for too much. I think we are living in a budget, they are living in a budget, and I don't want to seem like the person who's always asking. So I'm open to either of the 2 options that Ryan's laid out or we come up with, but I'm just kind of really firm for me that it's 1 question and it's not, oh, next year we'll ask another.
Other comments?
Well, I guess I agree with Amy. I think it should only be 1 question. I think it could end up being confusing for the community, and I think some people could get confused and end up voting no on or yes on 2 ballots of the same district. I think it's amazing to see that the rates are actually going down. I was actually kind of very shocked at that. I'm only 19, so I haven't been actually looking at tax rates my entire life. So I think it's definitely nice to see it going down. But I think at the end of the day, are we willing as a board to go to the community and say, we know that solar panels and electric vehicles are not really needed to operate a building, but are we willing to make that investment into our students for the future? And so I think that's the last thing that we as a board can decide, and then at that it'll be up to the voters to decide if they want to make that investment.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Sarah, any comments?
I'm still processing it all.
Okay.
I'll let you know if I.
Okay.
I just have a comment. I'm going to the taxpayer side, right? I've seen my taxes triple in 3 years. And it's a lot. They're a lot now compared to even 3 years ago. And when I open my tax bill, all I see is Tolleson High, Tolleson High. Littleton plays a tiny role, but overall, all it is school overrides. That's all. When I figured it up, it's a large amount of money. Yes, 14 cents doesn't seem a lot, but when your house value is going up, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. So if you had a home, 4 years ago and it was valued at $225, now it's what? $375, $4,000. So that 14 cents is not 14 cents anymore.
Right, worth more when you sell it.
Absolutely. It's all a domino. So I'm okay with going what we need to, whatever that ends up being, just keep what we have. But I am not a fan of continuing. Definitely not 2 questions. Definitely not asking for now and some later. Keeping in mind, Tolleson's going out as well. So when you just see ours, we get lost in the minutia. Yeah. And ours, if I look at my tax bill, I wish I was just paying ours. But I don't. I pay surrounding districts, and they're very expensive. So just,
And we're at the bottom.
we are at the bottom.
Descending order by size.
Yes, and so it doesn't, if you're a homeowner, it causes you to look twice. Because you're like, wow, I hope I'm getting everything, not just Littleton, but every district. Am I getting what I'm paying for? So that's just something I think we have, and especially eggs, and every gas is $4.49 now. So it isn't just, this is a bad time period for everybody. So I would caution, maybe, again, don't be too greedy. This isn't the year to see where we hide and fly with different things that we know we really need. So that's more feedback.
So, Madam President, I think we are looking for a little direction because we want to bring this back in May, and we want to work with the attorney to get some language put in place, and so we can call for a resolution to call for an election.
Okay.
So, any other feedback that the board has would be beneficial.
Is inflation and growth okay to start out? Was the first step okay?
I am comfortable definitely with asking to stay where we are. I feel completely confident in saying, you know what, we are going up for an override, and it is hard, and I understand, but we have to keep, just like you have to keep with inflation in your homes, the school has to do the same thing. So I'm 100% comfortable with that. asking to increase to the 400, whatever the 4 number when I can't think, 4 million. That
Jim, can you put that chart up again, just the table he had? Yeah, there.
I want it. I do. Like, I would love to like have that extra money to invest in solar or electric vehicles or anything else that we know our district needs. But I feel like our families are waiting and they're not buying things that, you know, would help that make their homes more profitable or more environmental friendly. So I am okay with just continuing on, keeping it the same.
I think for me, what kind of rang for me was business as usual and not, never want to have to make cuts or anything. So I'm, echoing, what other members are saying and just keeping it where we need it to be.
So this isn't, I'm
Just a
sorry.
comment. I do agree, Tolson Union is, does have, from my understanding, they have a very higher tax rate. What I would say is that, look at the amazing things that Tolson Union is doing. They are one of the best paying school districts in the state, and they have solar panels at all of their campuses, and they have electric buses. They're even adding those in there now. And I think my comment is, I don't want Littleton to fall behind the times, and I think that I echo with me, and I'm outnumbered. So I know that there's no chance of us going to the 4 million, but I would add is that we eventually have to have that conversation. So when are we ever as a board going to decide that we're willing to make investments that are not really needed as business as usual, but are investments for the future, for when we are not around? So that's just my thoughts. But thank you, Ryan, for bringing it to us.
I think that's valid conversations, but when you open up your tax bill, you come see me and you let me know how it looks, because it's very different.
Madam President, I think some of the things that we envisioned, when we brought that because of the conversation that's happened at the DS, but you could also at some future year roll some of that into a bond proposal as well. So I think the question really is going to be, depending on how goes the economy, the other taxing authorities around us, if there's another opportunity to have an election, what kind of the components would be inside of it. We think, given the increased cost of things, especially in construction, if we have roofs that the school facility board, won't pay under building renewal to resurface or tear up and rebuild, that any one of those roofs could easily be $3 million a pop. So there is, going to be additional need in the future that will have to be managed, and probably with some support from voters. So I think it is, there's both, what you want, there's both not falling behind and having some vision, and also considering the context of your constituents, and where they are and what else is happening all at the same time. And it is, like I said, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it's judgment of the board.
Thank you. Thank you for the discussion. It is definitely much needed. With that, it looks like we're still gonna keep with you and having more discussion.
Oh, am I up again?
You are.
Okay. Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, Littleton community, this evening I have two policies. First read of two policies. First policy is EBAA, warning of hazards and warning systems. This policy revision is a minor revision and has to do with the district's requirement to ensure adequate notice prior to pesticide applications in our schools. So it doesn't change the requirement to do it. It changes some of the information that is required to be posted. Be happy to answer any questions the board has. Item 2 is a change to EBAA report. No, sorry, that was one I just did. Item 2 is a change to EEAA, walkers and riders. And this change Basically, it requires the board to provide transportation to students who do not reside within an established school attendance area, limited to no more than 30 miles each way. Prior, the limit was 20.
Madam President, Governing Board, today I'm going to start with policy JFABADA, admission of students in foster care. This recommended change is about the time educational students have to enroll a foster student. The policy used to read immediately, and what they did is they changed immediately to 2 days. So they just defined immediately. Policy JH, student absences and excuses. This recommended policy change adds mental or behavioral health to the reasons schools can excuse an absence. We have been doing this since ARS 15807 came into being, so this is no problem for us. Policy JHD, exclusions and exemptions from school attendance, was updated to clarify examples of health professionals who may identify chronic health conditions for students. So they just put a bunch more types of doctors in there. And then, sorry, Jim, am I going too fast? Policy JIH, student interrogations, searches, and arrests. The language has been revised to match the term child welfare investigator. They just changed, because that agency has been changing a bit. So they say safety worker, child welfare investigator, as it reads in ARS 8-821. So all minor in my 4 policies tonight. Questions, comments?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. So the legislative update is kind of interesting because there is kind of a lull over the legislature. Normally what you'd see is if ideas are being floated around the budget, they would start having small group talks. There'd be exchanges between the 9th floor and leadership, and so it seems eerily quiet. There's a little bit of legislation happening, but we've heard 2 things. One is, at some point the undercurrent will break. There'll be a budget deal that'll probably go pretty fast because people want to get out and start working for the election. The other is the impasse is so great, we probably won't have a budget till the summer. And so we're working on the assumptions that Mr. French went over with you when we talked about compensation and budget proposals. And otherwise, the governor did sign and veto another set of bills this week. The bills signed were House Bill 2174, which allows school personnel to do emergency glucagon administration. That's, I think, type 1 diabetes. Kids' blood sugar drops so much that they need glucagon in order to survive. Prohibiting, Senate Bill 1280, prohibiting individuals serving on local boards if they're subject to register as a sex offender. I don't know where that was a problem, but it's signed. Senate Bill 1404 requires notification sex offenders for those who have been convicted of dangerous crimes against children whose children go to the school if the offender has legal custody of the child. House Bill 2311 requires charter public schools to give enrollment preference and reserve capacity for pupils who are children of active members of the armed forces, United States, or who have been killed in the line of duty. Waiting on the governor's desk still, unless she signed it recently, is House Bill 2246 for Purple Star school designations. That's essentially self-designating that you have services and procedures in place to receive those kids who are moving in the service and support them. And so I think, for instance, our Service Learning Academy would be a great candidate for that if she signs that. The governor vetoed House Bill 2629 regarding instruction on victims of communism, and House Bill 2793 requiring policies about access to the internet or other limitations on wireless devices. We've all been struggling with that, but you're starting to see that in lots of states. Cell phone bans and cell phone limitations being passed by other legislatures. I don't know if there's something in there that the governor might eventually plan, but the role cell phones play in a lot of adolescent misconduct is people are becoming more and more aware of that, whether it's bullying or trafficking or other things. So that's an ongoing concern. That bill didn't make it, but I think it's still a topic we're going to need to work on. Other things moving, Senate Bill 1435 subjects a public entity to liability for losses that arise out of an act or omission of public employee under certain outlined conditions. I think what happened here is somebody hired a bad actor but didn't do reference checks, and so they didn't have documentation to support it. I think that does happen on occasion. We're pretty diligent about it. But then you skip the reference check, but then they do something, to cause some harm, and then you're liable. It seems like if you're not doing reference checks, maybe to me you should be liable. But that isn't signed or vetoed yet, as far as I know. Some of the language was a question, a little subjective, and I don't know if it made it through Ledge Council or rules, if that's been examined. That can be a problem in implementation. Senate Bill 1654 for litigation recovery and for EVIT foster youth housing. EVIT is like the East Valley's West MEC, and both of those CTEDs have the ability to provide courses for kids after graduation in their early 20s. And so they were thinking that foster youth who need housing in those teen years, who struggle if they've been in foster care for a long time, could have a residential program at their CTED. And then they would be keeping track of them and making sure they got to school, but they needed enabling legislation to do that. And then House Bill 2481 on the public body and open meetings. And I think there's been a question of daisy chaining information in small groups. I know the legislature does it. So there may be some precautions or restrictions. I don't know if that's going to be moving. There are some bills that seem to have run out of momentum. Unless there's a striker that comes up, Senate Bill 1731 on public meetings, 1463 on special education transition services, 1459 would have adjusted school letter grades over student discipline disagreements. Those seem to be dead or not moving, but you never know what'll happen as the session language is on. Just not a lot to report, not a lot of activity, and really not a lot of gossip either. So I don't have any of that to report.
Okay. Any future agenda items the board wishes to have placed? Yes, sir.
I know in May we talked and we reviewed I believe we reviewed our handbook in May, but I would like to see policy JICA, which is our student dress code policy, be included when we review our handbook. I believe that's at our May meeting or June meeting. And then for the month of June, I would like to see a Pride Month proclamation proclaiming the month of June as Pride Month. And those are just my two items for this meeting.
All right. I will at this time recess to executive session. Yes.
I move that we recess to executive session to discuss, to talk with our lawyer about executive session pursuant for purposes of legal advice with the attorney for the public body regarding the superintendent selection process and related issues.
Thank you for the motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion will pass. We'll go into recess. Time is 7:20.